You're listening to SuperPower Mommas on the SuperPower Up podcast, the show that embraces the art of soulful parenting.
Hello, you're listening to SuperPower Mommas, and I'm Laura Greco, your host. And I am so excited to be with you today. I have a beautiful soul for a guest today, Isabel Hundt. I met her actually through a community that I belong to. And if you've ever listened to Jennifer Uruzio's show, then you know that community. And anyway, through our conversations together, I got to know her as well as her family, her son especially. We spoke at length about that. Isabel is a person who has been on a prophetic journey. She dreamed as a young person at the age of 12, actually, that she would become more of a public figure in her work. However, the obstacles for her weren't about so much about the going out and being seen. It was more about what was going on within her. Her biggest obstacle actually turned out to be her ability to fully connect her heart and soul and to accept herself as the empathic warrior that she is, and to really share those unique gifts out into the world. Isabel has so much to share with us, so I'm not going to continue to introduce her. I'm just going to say, hi, Isabel, and thank you, and welcome to our show.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me. I was waiting for okay, let's see how far she goes with the intro.
Yeah, well, I like to have you share about yourself in your own words. And I'm really grateful that you're able to come on this show with us. I often see you in Facebook. You're always doing beautiful presentations on different topics. And what I'd like to do is ask you our traditional question, which is, what is your superpower as a mama?
As a mama.
Yeah, as a mama.
Well, I would say the superpower that I have, I can use wherever. But I actually do have a real superpower, and that is being able to read people's minds and hearts, which means I read the vibration that someone else's heart sends out, and my brain translates that into color. And from there, I understand the meaning of what's going on in more detail with someone. Obviously, I don't do it without asking or being asked, but I can also use that as a mom very, very well, because it connects me to my child in a very unique and interesting way. Let's say it that way.
No, that's really cool. And when that's really interesting. Isabel, I noticed in your bio that you talked a lot about the idea of intuitiveness. And I wanted to ask you, what does it mean to be intuitive, and what role does it play for parents today? You've already mentioned about the color and your superpower. So can you blend that together and help us to see?
Yes.
Yes.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Yes. So what does it mean to be intuitive, especially in today's world where everything is fast-paced and needs to happen right now, right here? I think what I had to learn is especially to slow down and to listen to not just my heart, but also to my son. And for those who have very young children, they are not very vocal about what they need. They don't quite understand yet, even though their soul understands. So it is, for me, especially being a highly sensitive person, it's even more important to listen to what the needs are that my son has. For example, when he was little and I had to drop him off somewhere, I would not leave him if he started to totally freak out and just cry. And some people say, oh, he's just starting to manipulate you. He just has separation anxiety and all those fun things. But I knew as a mom, there is something going on in this room, if it's the caregivers or not, or something else that he has not the ability to deal with yet. And it could pretty much hurt him on an emotional and mental level. And so I never would leave him there, even if that would mean that I had to leave as well, or that I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And I always trusted him, and it helped me for him to understand that he can trust me. And so we have this really high trust level between me and my son, and my husband is similar. And I think that is being intuitive, really listening to your child as a parent, and not just as an authority figure, as an individual, not just seeing your child as, oh, that's a child and we need to tell them what to do, but actually acknowledging them as an individual, tuning in with them and yourself, acknowledging your own needs as well as your child needs, so that they can mature on an emotional level as well as spiritual and mental level.
Wow, that's powerful. Very powerful. I love that you share that. And I believe that a question might rise up, especially for moms who are looking for, we're raised in a way that, right, when we start out, we're just doing our play and whatever as a child. However, when we begin school and when we begin to learn boundaries, we often are looking outside for approval.
Yes.
And we're looking for guidance in that way. And we really almost stop using our ability to know our own way, if you will, or sense or trust that intuition. Mm-hmm. And so as a mom, when she's observing something like you said with your son, how does she know that it's intuition versus giving in. Yeah.
Helicopter mom.
Yeah. How does she know the difference?
Well, the difference if you do the work on yourself. If you can trust yourself, like, for example, okay, so maybe that helps if I just explain a little bit more. Yeah. I am totally not a helicopter mom, but I also, but in some areas I am more like, who is he with? Who is he surrounded by? How do they talk to him? What does he eat? Like, anything that goes into his body can overstimulate his nervous system, which makes it really hard for development. So I'm very protective in that sense, but I know in other ways I let him explore. Like, I don't scream when he goes up the tree. I just let him do and say, well, figure it out. Or I just let him explore. I don't always hold him next to me. When he goes grocery shopping, he sometimes runs off, but I know he comes right back. He also knows to stay with me. If it's too crowded, he would not leave me. He is very independent, but at the same time, he knows that he's safe with me. And when you see that, and your child is not just clinging at you, and you don't always hover over them, like when they're at the playground, that's when you know you're actually trusting your intuition, when you can see the difference. Okay, here I really feel something is different, something doesn't feel right, and I can't leave my child in this environment. To, oh my God, hopefully he's not going to hurt himself. Hopefully he's not going to run away, or hopefully he's not going to do that, like all those fears. But if you really know, like, okay, something doesn't feel right, I can't do it. Like, I can't leave my child here, versus, oh my gosh, that's when you know you're actually trusting your intuition.
Oh, that's really neat. We're going to explore more on this after the break, but right now we have to take a break. So thank you for explaining that, Isabel. And I want to ask you to let everyone know how they can reach you.
Yes. The easiest way, I make it very simple for people, is my website, isabelhunt.com, ISABELHUNDT.com, where you can find everything from how to connect with me on social media to all the offers that I have, everything in one place.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you. We'll be right back. We're speaking with Isabel Hundt on what does it mean to be intuitive and what role does this play in parenting today. So hang with us. We'll be right back.
Are you here to change the world? Do you talk about things like vibration, frequency, awakening, and consciousness? Are you pretty sure you have superpowers? The SuperPower Net is unlike normal coaching programs and conscious communities. We provide training, intuitive guidance, peer-to-peer learning, intensive one-on-one coaching, and a high vibrational network of people just like you. When you join the net, you get 24/7 access to a collaborative group of people who support you as you master master your personal power and unlock your superpowers. If you're ready to use your superpowers to change the world, then join the Superpower Net today. Visit superpowerexperts.com/thenet to learn more.
Welcome back to Superpower Mamas. We're speaking with Isabel Hundt, and we're talking on the topic of what does it mean to be intuitive, and what role does this play for parents today? Isabel, before we went on the break, you first of all started out by telling us what your superpower is, and then we went into the discussion about intuition, and you shared with us, some of the differences of how we can know this. What I want to know now, I'm sure my listeners are interested because your superpower is so cool, is how do you use your superpower to assist your child in everyday life?
He has similar superpowers, so it makes it easy. Our whole family is an empathic family, so it makes it a little unique because we do things differently. And I think something that how I can use it is to help him how he approaches people, if he can trust someone or if he cannot. And I do the same. If I receive some information or some vibration or some connected to some color that just feels off to me, I'll ask him, like, what is your feeling about it? Can you trust yourself? What do you think? Something, and he's only 4.5, but something that I instill in him is to give him choice. Or sometimes I validate him as in, well, sweetie, what do you like? Does that look better on mommy or does that look better on mommy? And no matter what he says, I just go with it. Like I go with what he chose so he feels that affirmation. But it's the same with the superpower. I instill that knowing and how he sees color and how he experiences the world the same way as I had to learn it. The only difference is that he's already able to learn it at the age of 4, not me. Had to wait until I was in my mid-20s to figure this one out. So it's a very powerful tool for me to help him understand how the world responds to him and how he's responding to the world and how he can make choices where he can trust himself.
Isabel, you hit something really important, and I love that you brought it out because you, of course, are an empath and you are raising a son who is as well. However, if there's moms out there who don't necessarily feel like they're in that category, what you are doing with your son is across the board such a fabulous way to raise children because it honors the child and teaches them to begin to listen to their own intuition, their own selves. And I think that's, that's something that I am looking to make a difference with every person who is parenting their children, because our children today, especially today, I would say, and you can correct me if you see it differently, but I see our children today as a little more demanding of us being secure within ourselves or knowing who we are. And that doesn't mean that we have to be perfect, but it does mean that it's time for us to really look within and learn to trust ourselves and learn to trust our children.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. What you just said, that doesn't totally surprise me at all, because especially now, the young children, we're all in millennial generation. What is that? Y? X? I can't remember. Whatever. Like my husband is a generation before me, something like that. We are raising the young children right now, and we grew up into the technology age where internet started to happen, computers. I mean, I still remember these old boxes, right? So there's a lot of overstimulation, and we're always distracted. And those young children shouldn't. And I hope most of them don't have that exposure to all electronics yet, even though they still feel the electronic, the vibration that comes from those. But they want to be seen, to like, hey, where are you? Where are you? They have this deep inner connection still, that they want to connect with people, that desire to connect. But we often are so in our heads and so glued to our technology that we don't have this deep our connection with our children anymore. It's more like, okay, what does parenting look like? And it's always that surface level. It never really goes much deeper, or very often it doesn't go much deeper. And so, of course, children are more demanding. And I know people say, oh, especially for older children, they don't have any respect anymore. Well, let's trace that back a little bit and take a look at, are we respecting them the way we want them to respect us? And most likely we don't, because there's still this power struggle going on. And I think that's where we as adults say, okay, our children are more demanding, and it makes sense. I think we need to listen to them because they're pulling us back from all the hustle, from all the busyness, saying, hey, stay with me right here, right now, in the present moment. I know you have a lot to do, but I want you to be with me, to really be with me. And sometimes, especially with everything that's going on, parents are like, oh my gosh, I can't handle this, and I can't do this, and just go in your room. Where actually, if we're honest with ourselves, the children are usually right. Because otherwise we would feel better. We as adults wouldn't be as sick mentally, emotionally, physically. We wouldn't be as worn out and exhausted and tired. So there is some truth behind the demand that our children put on us.
Yeah. I always say our children are our greatest teachers, really. They mirror things for us that we may not even be aware of. And, we were raised in a certain way, and life is, the movement today is, or has been for many, many years, moving in the direction of more connection that's conscious. And
yes.
I like to say it that way because connection, we're always connected, right? But are we really conscious? Are we really present? Are we in the moment? And the busyness is what is distracting. So the busyness of our fast-paced world and vibration of that fast pace is actually separating us. And unless we take that strong step forward and choose a new way, or, a way that's more, bringing us together, then it's not going to happen. It's just going to continue to perpetuate out.
Right.
And our children will end up that way too.
I think I see especially this problem here in the U.S. I'm originally from Germany, so I grew up differently, and I know how things work differently. My brother just had a little boy 2 days ago, and I know he's in the military, but he's able to take 2 months off with his wife together. And they don't have to worry about the finances. They're still being supported financially, just being and connecting with the first 2 very important months with the child. So I think there are cultural differences that we need to acknowledge. But even if you are one of those parents where both have to work and you say, well, I don't have that time to really be that conscious because there is only so much time in the day. For one, I think what is extreme in the US is the after-school activities, which are ridiculous because everyone needs to, it's a lot about comparison and status. The more my child does and the better they are at it, the more I'll be acknowledged as a parent. We make it a lot about us as how we show up as a parent instead of what is it that my child really needs. And that is something that I see throughout the board, especially in the US. Now, I can't necessarily speak on other countries because I've only been a parent in the US. So, but just the difference I see with friends of mine and the friends that live in like friends that live here and friends that live in Europe, there's a big difference in how we experience parenthood and how we think we have to function as parents. And I think that's something that we need to let go of. If you want to create a more intuitive parenting style, you need to let go of the status and the comparison and how you are being perceived as a parent. Jonah is not a child that throws a lot of tantrums. And when he does, even if it's out in public, I go down with him. And I hold him. And if he has to throw that tantrum to get something out or because he's overtired or he is overstimulated, I don't care what other people say about me or around me. I'm just in that moment with my child, and he knows I keep him safe. I don't compare and like, oh my gosh, what are going to people say? That's embarrassing. That's awkward. I don't care. I just literally shut it all down, and I'll just be with him in that moment. And that alone makes a big difference in stopping to compare ourselves as parents so that we can attend to the needs of our child or our children individually.
So when this happens, Isabel, that he's having a tantrum and you drop to the ground with him, what does that do for him? And then what does that do for you?
I think from experience, what it does for him, it helps him to calm down. And well, obviously I have quite a few tools, some from you, some from Jennifer and other coaches that I've worked with that I use for myself so I can stay calm and just be with him. But what does it do for him is gives him a safe space. He doesn't feel ridiculed. He doesn't feel humiliated. He doesn't feel rejected. He doesn't feel he has to perform in a certain way just because it's public. And I need to remember he's only 4. He might sound smarter than a 4-year-old. Like he's really like, he talks like a 14. Well, his teachers say 4 going on 40. But he's still 4. And I have to remind myself of that they don't know at that age what actually really is appropriate. Let's say that way. We set those boundaries. We set those limits of what is appropriate, right? But for him, it gives him that safe environment. Mommy is here. Mommy doesn't judge me. I can just explore what's going on. And sometimes I just sit with him and I ask him what he needs. And then in that moment, he usually looks at me and he's like, I just need a hug. Can you just hold me, Mommy? And for me, it gives this really strong, deep sense of trust that he has in me. And that influences him, that I most likely will be able to influence him for a very long time because he can trust us as his parents. He knows we hear him. He knows we see him. And that makes a whole lot of difference in how children listen to you too. And when you do set boundaries.
Very, very beautiful. Yes, because I can just feel it when you're speaking, how the calmness comes over when we're not busy judging a situation or looking for who's watching and how they're perceiving it. And you touched on something that I always say, and that is, what do our children need but for us to see them, to hear them, and to know that they're valued and loved? And just to go a step further, isn't that actually what we also need to be doing for ourselves?
Yeah.
As moms.
That's often, I think I only was able to change that mindset when I took care of myself and when I asked myself those same questions. What is it that I need? It's funny because I teach a lot around emotions. Like that's what I speak on publicly. That's emotional maturity, right?
Yes.
So instead of asking my son what is wrong, whatever he experiences, if it's anger or upset or sadness, I don't ask him what is wrong. I ask him what he needs. And at a young age, they may not be able to respond in the way that an adult would, but they make sure that you know what they need, because it could be as simple as a hug or a kiss or just leave them alone. Or reading a book with them. Often it is about attention. And so it's really interesting with him to see that dynamic, how he now comes back to me when I'm upset about something. He comes to me, he's like, what do you need, Mommy? I'm like, dude, you're 4. You're coaching me. That's awesome. But it's also a little creepy because we're not used to that. We're used to children needing us. We need them. But it's a back and forth. It's a receiving and giving. And I think if someone has problems with receiving, pay attention how you receive from your child and not just give.
Yeah. And this is brings me to another question that I have for you, Isabel. And you work with a lot of different people out there, and also as a parent yourself. We talked a lot about engaging with our children. How important, though, do you believe that a mom maintaining her autonomy is in her parenting?
Can you rephrase that a little bit?
Sure. So we talked a lot about engaging with our children, being consciously connected and so forth, right? And being there for them. How important do you believe that also maintaining autonomy for ourselves as mothers and as individuals, how important is that to our parenting for our children?
Okay, I need to ask you this honest question. What means anatomy?
Oh, autonomy. In
autonomy.
other words, yeah. What I'm saying is that, is there a place for mom to only be mother, or is there also time for herself to do the things that she truly loves?
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. That is actually very, very important. We have very strict rules in our home. I'm a business owner, so there's always stuff going on, but I also have realized, especially as a mom, that I need very clear boundaries. I need to have very clear time frames where I can work, especially as someone who's very intuitive. So as a mom, especially if you have more than one, it's probably even harder. And especially if they're younger, you need to have clear boundaries. For example, I get up at 5:30 in the morning. Usually Jonah is with me in the mornings. I can't blame him. If I get up at 5:30, well, who can tell him not to? But he knows. He usually just goes downstairs. He gets himself a snack and he just plays. He's very independent, but it's just because we raised him that way already. And he knows after mommy gets done with her shower, she goes in her office and she meditates for 30 minutes and I cannot go in. That's just something that he knows. This is my time. And when he doesn't give me that time, he always looks at me, Mommy, did you not meditate today? Because he feels that I'm more irritated. So he does recognize that. And he also knows, for example, now, I'm not sure if he's taking a nap. He may not, because he sometimes listens to when mommy talks, I can do whatever I want to do. But he's also very resourceful. He would just go downstairs and play with his toys very quietly. He would not come in and start bugging me. Like he just doesn't do it. And he is 4. And that's just really, that's not something that comes naturally to him. It's something that we taught him, that we instilled in our household. If the door's closed, mommy needs to get work done, you can't come in. And when he was younger, the dynamic was a little bit different, but even then he knew there's quiet time for me and there's mommy time. And sometimes I just integrated him into all that I have to do. When I do need time for myself, maybe we just go for a walk together and help me feel grounded and more balanced. So there was a time, especially when I was younger, we went every morning for a walk. It helped him. It helped me. And it is not about separating all of it. It's about how can we integrate? How can we make it work for both of us or for all of us? And sometimes it's a bit of a stretch. Like over the last years, I did have to work in the evenings more. Now he is in school 3 days a week full time. And those are my work hours, and I don't have to work as much in the evening. So sometimes it's just a phase, like reminding yourself it's always a phase, but in each phase, you can still be your individual as well as them, their individual, and you can still bring it together. You can still make it work. It just always looks different, but we tend to resist. This is how I think it should work, and this is how I think it should look like, so let's make it happen this way, instead of just staying with the flow and helping each individual to find their path, together making it work. And that is a bit of a stretch, and it took me a lot of learning to the point where my emotional state influenced my son's health, and until I figured that out, there was a lot of struggling and resisting and fighting, and especially power fights going on between us. Like, you're the child, you need to listen, you need to take a nap now, and I'm getting really angry. And after I started to understand that, we were able to create very clear boundaries that work for him, that work for me, that work for my husband. And people always say, well, it's your first, so of course. I was like, I don't think it would be different with another child, because it's just the way we operate in our household. And when children see that and learn that from the beginning on, they just go with it because that's all they know. Yeah,
that's beautiful. And you're highlighting that it's not necessarily smooth sailing. However, it can be done with a little work in the beginning and overcoming some of your own decision, your own Because I know that you had some feelings of like, wait a minute, I need to get my work done.
Yes.
So being able to figure that out and have the flow in the family, every family is different. Everybody has a different flow in their family and how they do it. But the fact that you took a situation that was challenging and learned to maneuver it in such a way that it worked for everyone is a beautiful example.
Mm-hmm.
We are coming to the close of our show. We could talk for a long time.
Yeah, I know.
Beautiful. But before we close, I'd like for you to share where people can find you, and do you have something that we haven't covered in our discussion that you would like to make sure moms know?
I think the biggest advice for moms is find your own path. Don't get lost into just being mom. Losing your identity because suddenly your children become your identity. Because then once your children are gone, you fall into a really deep hole. And that's what we often see with the empty nest crisis. Understand who you are, stay true to yourself, and follow your passion, even though it may look the way you implement it may look differently each year or each phase that you go through, but still owning who you are. Besides being just a mom, you're more than just being a mom. It's just a role that you have in life that stays with you
forever.
But it changes how it looks like. So never forget who you are. Don't lose your identity. I think that's something that was really, really important for me from the beginning of being a mom. And to your other questions, again, how people can find me, the easiest way, I make it very simple for people because we already have enough to do and we already have all those thoughts and to-do lists. So the easiest way is to go to my website, isabelhundt.com, HUNDT.com. Usually people forget the D. There you can find other interviews. I've done tons of them. How to work with me potentially. There's also information about my online course about how to successfully navigate your emotional world, which is amazing for moms because mom, if you know how to do it, you can teach your children and you will experience less tantrums, for example. So all those informations are on my website, isabelhundt.com.
Thank you so much, Isabel. Thank you for being on our show. And I want to thank all you listeners for also joining our conversation here. We really got a lot of information out of this. And so, mamas, just to sign off, I'd like to remind you to love yourself for the treasure that you are. You already have what it takes to be a mom and to be who you are. So every big change starts within your own hearts. And it is from there that we create what we want for our families. So own your own superpowers and go out and be you. Till next time, be well.
Are you ready to discover your superpowers? Go now to superpowerexperts.com and take the Superpower quiz today.